So, very good afternoon. So here, we have been completed almost all items in unit number 1. So everything has been completed, and now in the database management system, we need to discuss about only one thing, that is client server architecture. How the client server architecture was introduced, and what are the different kinds of advantages, disadvantages of client server architecture. These are much more important for one moment. So these are the points which we would like to concentrate today. So the concentrated points will be how client server architecture will be, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages which are being there with client server architecture. So this is the class. If possible, I'll go ahead and recall everything regarding to this particular unit again. Okay. Now let us come across with what is the client server architecture and how this could be introduced to the world of database management systems. In 1972, EF Code, Edward Franklin Code, has introduced database management system. Of course, we have discussed everything in the previous lectures. And he is the person, he is the father of database management system. And before him, so file server architecture has been introduced. This file server architecture could also be called as novel network architecture. Novel, N-O-V-E-L-L, novel network architecture. So this is the software actually, operating system, so which is available before database management system, full-fledged database management system. And how it could be gets evaluated here. Let us see. This is the file server architecture which is being available with us. You need to remember 2 points here. Point number one. So here, database and everything will be maintained in terms of a file server. That is what you need to understand here. It is not at all a database management server, because every database management server does have some number of rules and regulations, such as reduce the redundancy and maintain the consistency, and many other features must be there. Those features are not supposed to be existed in terms of file server here. So there might be having one particular database. The database will be connected to file server. Look at this. All workstations. Let me say this is one database management system which is being worked with one particular person external view. This is another external view. This is another external view. These people are requesting for data, not for file. These people are requesting for some data. I'll explain. Let you have some kind of description after some time. So these people are requesting for data, not exactly the entire file. Only data is required from the database. Whereas this file server will be gives you only file, not the data. Data cannot be gives you. So instead of actual required data, it has been forwarded entire file to the workstations in the sense to the clients. After getting that entire file to this particular workstation, and the user has to segregate himself by applying some more extra operations. So that is what's being happening here. And here, this architecture is called as a two-tier architecture. Of course, client server also two-tier architecture. What do you mean by two-tier architecture? In the sense, tier number one, all workstations. This area is called as the tier number one. This whole area is called as the tier number one, because tier number one is always being accessed by the end users. So that this is called tier number one. and this will be called as tier number 2. Tier number 2 is not supposed to be accessed by all end users here. Clients are not supposed to be access this tier number 2. So tier number 1 can be accessed the system, otherwise the area where exactly directly in contact with the end users or users, then that is called as tier number 1. The area which is not supposed to be accessed by the end users. Of course, there are many professionals, database analysts, database designers, database administrators, all these people are available. So if those people will be accessed, then that is called as tier number 2. So this is tier number 1. So what are the basic principles of this one here? Let us have a look here. So basic things will be file server computer is connected with, it is connected with a network. Okay, it is connected with a network, so that this network will be shared by many number of other end users here, and end users are, otherwise you could consider the people who are accessing only that particular network here. So this will be called as end users point of view, and this is called as a file server point of view. And here in file server architecture, very important point will be files will be distributed across the network, not data. You please remember, I am always spell up one particular word, pronounce one particular word, that is file. Files will be always distribute across the network. Okay, if any data is required, you are asking for only data, but has given complete file to you. So that is why the files are processing of files will be across the network. So that is the point you need to remember regarding to file server. And workstations is any workstation is always requested for data, but file server will be send or file server will be in reply of that particular requisition. File server will be always send files instead of required data. For example, there is a specific command. Okay, you will be aware of this particular command after some 4 to 5 classes. What is this particular command? How this particular command can be written? And what are the premises? Everything will be known to you after 4 classes. Don't worry about this one. Let me give you. There are 2 different types of databases. One is customer and the second one is order. And it does have a huge amount of data, not exactly very less, huge amount of data. Out of those, there are 2 different columns are available, name and street. So this person, whomever the workstation, whatever the workstation it could be, that workstation is being accessed. So max fringe, this particular person's information is required by so-called application here. He wanted to get the information of this particular person. Whereas, so file server, if you submit this particular question to the or a requisition to the file server simply blindly, it doesn't look forward for anything. It's blindly complete file will be transferred from file server to your machine. You have to take care after getting whole file. You have to take care about your actual data, what actually required by you. So that is the basic problem with file server architecture. For example, if you do not understand, let me explain for some more time. So our 2 tables are available, table number 1 customer, table number 2 order. So what exactly this query could be extracted here is, so in customer and order, customer ID, there is a specific column that is customer ID. So he wanted to, the client is wanted to note that, so how many times this particular person has made orders. He wanted to know that particular point using this query. How many orders have been made or put forwarded by Max. So that is the question here it is. So we do have some 1 million rows in order, and so some 1,000 rows, 1,000 customers are available with me, and all these 1,000 customers have made many orders. Let me say 10 lakhs rows will be there in the order. Now he wanted to accept it, or he wanted to get how many number of orders have been made by Max will be the question which was given by the specific workstation to the file server. So then what exactly the file server can be done is, let us consider this is the customer file, I mean customer database, this is the order database, enter order database. Both will be collect and send to that particular workstation. So after execution, on execution of this particular statement, both databases will be forwarded to this workstation. Then here you have to write some more logic to extract what exactly you required as far as this particular command is concerned. So this is the problem with the file server. Okay. So because a file server does not have any information regarding to SQL, so both relations, let me say, actually, as far as the database management system theory, tables are called as relations. Okay, tables are called as relations here. So customer and order relations will be copied from file server to so the workstation where the client is being working. So thereby he must implement some more extra logic to get this particular, what is the required or what is the actual data which is required by him. Okay, so that is the basic problem with the file server. So because of these reasons, let us see what are the disadvantages. Heavy network traffic. So you are required, what does it means? Let me explain this one here. You are accepted. So as far as this particular query, you are expecting only 20 bytes of data. You are expecting only 20 bytes of data. But what actually the file server can be done? What actually does? So it has been sent approximately. Let us consider this is 1,000 rows, 1,000 into some 2 kilobytes. So 2,000 kilobytes will be available here. This is 10 lakhs rows. So 1 terabyte will be there here. For example, 1 terabyte of information is available within this one. You are expecting 20 bytes of data, but file server is being transmitted to you. So approximately 1.22 terabytes of data to to the workstation here. So transferring of this 1.22 terabytes of data will be take a huge amount of time, and it will be used complete bandwidth. It has been used to complete bandwidth also. So therefore, heavy network traffic will be there while transferring the data from file server to workstation. This is the first point you need to, this is the first disadvantage you have to remember. And the second one is high total cost of ownership. So TCO, what does this mean? What does it mean? Each and every workstation uh, does maintain so-called database management systems software. Every workstation must be maintained because instead of getting the data, it has been file server has been sent so complete files or complete relations to you, so that you need to implement extra logic to get actual data which is required by you. So therefore, 1 minute please, 1 minute please. So this is the basic problem with the database, file server architecture here. So that is why every client must be maintain its own logic, so that database management system will also be stored in workstation. This is called as a cost of ownership. So cost of ownership in the sense a client must be, if you are supposed to not supposed to store entire database here, then you may be cost of your workstation will be very less. But every database management system must be loaded into entire workstation, so that it would be cost very huge amount of cost will be incorporated while you have to establish your file server architecture. This is also one of the very So important disadvantage. Okay, these are the two disadvantages which are available. In contrast, client server architecture has been introduced by 1973 after giving some postulates by so-called EF code, Edgar Franklin code. So it has been introduced. How this could be seen? Look at this. It could be as it is. There is no difference at all. If you go ahead and see the client, file server architecture, thereby you could see here the file server, and previously you have seen same data request here. There is no difference at all. But so database management system server will be send only the data which is required to you. Thereby entire file will be sent to you. But here you have only the data which is required to you. Okay. So previously we have called this as a workstation. But here right now it is client 1, client 2, client 3. So that's the basic difference, because there is a specification regarding to client here. So that is why we have termed it as a client here. So here also you need to remember, here also it is a two tier in the sense tier number 1 will be this one. This is tier number 1. All clients where exactly the what do you call end users will be directly communicate with the systems, which place they are going to they are going to take in the sense that will be tier 1. And where exactly the database will be, so this database will be called as a tier 2. So that is why it is a two-tier client server architecture. And client, each and every client, they will be forward one particular request here. Based on the request, whatever the actual data which is being so applied for that particular request, only that request is being transmitted to the so specific client or specific end user. That is the so basic point you need to remember here. So that is why this client server architecture can also be called as it's also called as request response kind of request response. Request response kind of network here. As and when you have to make any requisition, based on that the server is going to respond for your request. If you are not supposed to make any request, no response from this particular server. Okay, so physically you have connection will be established, but logically connection could not be there. As and when you have to make a request, then requisition, based on the requisition, server will be listen your request. After then, so logical connection also be just established. So therefore you have your own so data which is being acquired from the database server. So that is why it's also called as a client server request, client server architecture. Otherwise it is also called as a request and response kind of network. So this is the specification. Let us see. So here it is a two-tier application. All applications and all front-end applications will be available with the client, and all actual data will be available with the server. Okay, so both are two different machines which has been run here. Then clear separation between the client and server will be gets existed in terms of client server architecture. Previously in the file server, whatever the architecture we have been implemented and whatever the software you have to store in file server, same software could also be stored or load into workstation, because the workstation should also do the same kind of operation after getting the files based on the request from the file server. So it should be there. So that is why that kind of operation could not be there here. So therefore there must be a clear separation between client and server here. Then secondly, there are two different types of clients which have been connected. One is thin client and the second one is thick client. Thin client in the sense, let us consider what is thin client and what is thick client. Thin client is always trying to so communicate with the database. If a database system will be gets on, then only thin client will be work. If database system will be gets off, in the sense for time being database server will be gets off, in the sense thin client cannot be work anymore. You could not do any other operations other than so switching on, and it will be always trying to communicate with server, because server is switched off, so that therefore it should not be perform any other operation. Okay, it is very high configuration will be available here, whereas it is very minimal configuration If it is thin client, it might be thin client. Okay. So whereas a thick client in the sense, so thick client in the sense, if a database server will be available, yes, you can perform database operations. If a database server will be goes off, yes, you can perform your own operations other than database operations. Okay, let me say I'll open MS Office and I'll work with my MS Word or PowerPoint or Access, something like that. Whereas thin client, you could not have any operating system with your separate operating system with your client here. Whereas thick client, it does have its own. It does have its own operating system. Here, let me clear very clear distinction between these two. Let us consider here. So Windows NT can be loaded here, thereby so Oracle or any database application can be loaded here. If it is thick client, let me consider it as it is a thick client. This is a thick client. If it is thick client, what exactly will be there here in the sense Windows let me say Windows 10 or Windows XP or Windows 95, 98, some kind of operating system could be there. And whatever the application you have loaded in database server, that client application could also be loaded here. So if you are supposed to load, so Oracle some 10G has been loaded here. Oracle 10G server has been loaded here at this place. Here Oracle 10G client will be loaded in this machine. Okay, because of having Windows 10 within this particular machine, if Oracle 10G loaded this particular kind of system is working properly, then you could able to communicate with it. If it is switched off, then you will work with Windows 10. Other than Oracle operations, you could perform your own operations. Many other operations will be performed by this particular client. If it is thick, if it is thin, let me consider this is a so thin kind of system here it is. It doesn't have any kind of what you call Windows operating system or any other operating system could not be there. It could be introduced one what you call NIC, network interface card, which is network interface card will be introduced into this particular thin client. This network interface card does have Citrix, CYTRIC. Citrix. Then there is an operating system which is called as Citrix. Citrix is supposed to be loaded into network interface card. This Citrix is configured to Windows NT. If Windows NT system will be gets on, then Citrix will be communicate with Windows NT system. Then you can perform only Oracle operations. You could not perform MS Word. You could not take into consideration of any other application other than Oracle operations. Such kind of systems will be called as thin clients or thin operations. These are called as thick operations. That is the basic difference between these two. Okay. So simply speaking, I'll give you more and more realistic example: landline and cell phone. If you consider landline, you maybe communicate with your friend if a landline connected exchange will be gets on. If it is a switch off in the sense your landline cannot be work anymore. So even then, if the exchange will be switch off, other than calling, you could perform many other operations through your cell phone. You maybe watch movies, you maybe watch, you maybe listen some songs, or you maybe perform some other operations through your cell phone. So that is the basic difference between those two. Thin in the sense landline, thick in the sense your cell phone. So hope that you could understand what is thin and thick. Such kind of clients are being loaded here. Based on that, application will be goes ahead here. Then because of thin and thick lines will be collected here, so that the application logic is very less. Okay, client side application logic is very less. Okay, whereas in so here less or more application logic we have written more also, but more could not be there. Only very less application logic will be gets applied by thin or thick what you call clients here. Whereas in file server, workstation does have more and more application logic will be required, because entire file will be transferred to you. Therefore, you have to implement some extra logic to get what actually you require. But here, what actually you required, that has been pushed by So the server itself, so that you need no need to write extra logic to implement that particular required data here. So that is the advantages when compared to the file server with client server architecture. Then followed by, so in client server, client tier, what are the tasks? Number one, first task of a client will be all presentations. Let me say user interfaces, all presentations will be available at client side. So if you are expected to communicate with Gmail, so www.gmail.com, if you type that one, obviously it will be produced or it will be open one web page, and thereby you could have some, what is that, login page. You could not access directly that server, but you could have the presentation of the server into your client machine, something like that. Okay, let me show you one thing. Let me show you one thing, because I do have everything with me. Network also available with me, so that let me show you. So here, if I would operate something, so Yahoo, Yahoo Mail, let me operate this one. If I would go ahead with login.yahoo here, login.yahoo here, yes, it could be shown this particular user interface. So all clients will be able to show such kind of user interfaces. Okay, that is what does it means. User presentation of data, in the sense, in this way your data will be presented here. Okay, then followed by business and data processing logic will be also implemented at client side. So business, in the sense, here you maybe gets operate something. So let me consider, if I would take this particular thing, so it is already existed. Let me say create one more, sorry, create one more. It is already existed. Yeah, if I would take this particular thing, obviously, okay, something, and here something, and A, B, C, A, B, C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, something like this. I'd like to operate something like this. 400, and the date of birth will be some other way. Day will be 12, and 19, 1970. So something like this. If I would continue something like this, it must be implemented some information. It must be implemented some information, and the business logic will be took place something like this. Verification code will be sent to you, and you have to enter that verification code, and it will be check everything, and it will become, or it will create something. So such kind of a business logic will be implemented in terms of so the client here, at client level here. Then followed by any requisitions. Just before, I have given one SQL query to you, that select a name and address of one particular person from customer and order, something like that has been given to you. Such kind of requisitions will be made by the client to the server. Okay, based on that, it is going to, server is going to process those, and results will be, required result will be sent back to you. This is the specific operations. These are the specific operations by the client here. Whereas if you consider server, whatever the database access and whatever the services which have been given by the databases will be managed or maintained by the server, number one. Number two, any authorizations or integrity constraints or querying or updating querying or recoveries, everything other than these operations, other than these three operations, everything will be managed by the second tier, that is server. And secondly, business logic, validation of data will be took place at here. Only business logic will be served here. It is going to serve the business logic. Here validation checks will be done by the server. Okay. Then what are the, how many kinds of topologies are available for client server architecture? Okay, single client and a single server. It could be possible, because our system, if you load Oracle 10G with your system, yours is server and yours is client also. And then single server, multiple clients, or multiple servers and multiple clients. So these three topologies will be gets available for us. Okay. So then communication between client and server will be happen with inter-process communication. This word will be illustrated to you in your operating system in unit number 3. What is inter-process communication, and already we have discussed in PPL also. What is inter-process communication, how message passing will be happened, and how semaphore will be evaluated. Everything has been discussed by us in PPL also. So using that particular inter-process communication, your specific operations are going to be done here. And then finally, advantages are performance is increased at a lot or most time, because entire data cannot be, entire file could not be transferred to you. Only required data could be transferred to you, so that it has been implemented. And then followed by, so communication cost is much reduced, because so previously entire data has been sent to the workstations, where you have sent only huge, I mean, very less amount of data will be sent to you, so that the bandwidth of communication will be very less when compared to file management system. And then here, whatever it may be, whatever the thing I have discussed here. So then reduced hardware costs. So server can be run with only database management system. And here all business logic will be run at the client, so that hardware cost will be very less. And then consistency and security will be increased when compared to file architecture. And then I mean, what does it mean? So constraint checking or the security checking or everything will be done at only one place. That place is called as server. And only disadvantages are scalability. What do you mean by scalability? In the sense, client server two-tier architecture, client server two-tier architecture could not be supported more than, so 30 more than, so 32,765. If your number will be increased than this one, it is not supported. Nowadays, some organization have 1 lakh people, some other organization have 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs people. Wanted to implement such kind of database server using client server, two-tier client server architecture. It is not that much easy. Scalability in the sense, how many number of people will be connected with that particular server? That is called as scalability. So scalability could not be up to some extent it is okay, but beyond that particular extent, it could not be run properly. Okay. Then these are different client server administrative overheads are there if more number of people will be there, and very expensive to deploy new and very good applications into this particular logic. Some number of disadvantages are there. These disadvantages will becomes when certain amount of users will be gets reached. Otherwise, it is okay. Two-tier client server architecture is absolutely okay. Okay. So that is the specification. Of course, if thick client can be used, you need to have extra CPU, extra RAM, extra hard disk, and extra motherboard, intelligent motherboard. Everything is required. If thick client will be used by you, thin client in the sense there is no problem at all. If thin client, okay, nothing is required. Only network interface card is required. Citrix network interface card will be required. Therefore, you could perform your own operation. There is no problem at all. But thick client will be required. All these things. Extra CPU must be required to you. Okay. Within that particular CPU, you must load any one of the operating systems. If it is Microsoft or iOS, it may be cost something. If it is freeware, that is Ubuntu or something else, it is okay. It is free, so that therefore it is not at all a problem. Something like that. So these disadvantages will be come across when certain amount of people will be reached, certain number of amount of people will be connected to that particular system. So if you have only 1,500 employees are there with you, there is no problem. If you have some 32,000 employees are there with you, there is no problem. If it is reached to this number, then problem will be get fixed. You need to change the architecture. Okay. So this is what about the client server architecture. So this is what the unit number 1, and we will see. So probably you will get complete notes today in the evening by 7:30 or 8. Okay.